just implant a virus and end it all. Just end it all. Just end it all. Just put a virus in the computer and end the whole thing. Just end it. I'm looking for something. I don't know what it is.
$3. Have you ever played the Star Wars tabletop RPG? If so, what character did you play?
I haven't.
What character would you create?
I don't know. That sounds fun. Like the other day when Tango was talking about Dungeons and Dungeons, I was making fun of it, but in all reality, I probably would really like it. I was just teasing Tango because I enjoy teasing Tango because my favorite thing is Tango frustration sounds. But so what character would I make in Star Wars? That's a good question. I want to think about that, guys. By the way, I have like an enormous brain, and watch this. There you go. See, I still have a big brain, guys. Don't worry. I have a big brain. It's a giant brain. I just needed to be out of the boat. Just needed to be out of the boat. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Boop. And I can't swim away. There we go. Whew. There we go. Now I don't have to deal with mythical dolphin, and I can get to work. Look at that. It's a big brain right there. It's a powerful brain. It's a good brain. Might not say it's a good brain. Yeah, that's debatable. But that's debatable. But you know, it does its best. It does its best. That's all I like to say. I like to say my brain puts in an effort. That's all you can really ask for it. That's all you can really ask. But yeah, Skeleton Crew coming out. I hope it's good. I always hope every Star Wars show is good. Then they gave us Kenobi. I always think that like Ian McGregor's always out there like trying to get a season 2. I always hope that he knows, like we got to do better for the fans.
We have a ball python at the college, and he's much nicer. We have other animals like bunnies, hamsters, alpacas, goldfish, and horses, etc.
Got alpacas? That's cool. I like an alpaca. I like a llama and a good alpaca.
$3. Some snakes can sense heartbeats. This ability, called infrared sensitivity, helps them locate prey and even know when it's still alive. Pit vipers, boas, and pythons use specialized heat-sensing pits to detect the faint warmth of a heartbeat.
It's not helping. It's not helping. It's not helping your guys' cause. I'll tell you right now. That's not helping the snake cause right now. Whew! They're seeing us through infrared. They're walking around with night vision goggles on their head. All right. Night vision goggles. Unbelievable. What have we come to? All right. Skeleton Crew, am I right? Am I right? Great. Star Wars is at the point where I feel like it's just like random directors are like, I want to make something in Star Wars.
Are you going to put a roller coaster in the zoo? People call my house a zoo because I have 4 guinea pigs and a dog.
That's not not a lot. I think Skiz has got a zoo. I think you're good. I think you're good. I don't think you have the zoo. You just have a nice animal home. Skiz very much might be on the zoo territory.
Still bite and inject venom after death. Their reflexes can trigger a bite response hours after they're dead, as their nervous system remains active for some time. Handling a recently killed venomous snake is extremely risky.
They're still deadly dead. We can't even kill them.
Lulu Pistols tipped $3. If you ever watch anime, you should watch Delicious in Dungeon on Netflix. It's a super cool fantasy show where they cook and eat monsters.
Yeah, probably
The world building
snakes.
is so good. It seems like something you would enjoy, Mr. Scar.
Can't even kill them. And they're... What is it going to come down to when the war starts against humans versus snakes?
13 cheered Dex 500. Fun fact, Lilo and Stick used old school watercolor backgrounds. It was the last one to do that.
I know. If I give any props to Stitch, it's that. So sad. It's not that I don't like the 3D stuff, it's just...
To combat the snake talk, I wish to hear a Disney rant. Anything new on that front?
Boom, let's go. Okay, boom. Compliment. Surprised, I know. Like, Scar, you're gonna compliment Disney? What in the world? What's happened to you?
They are not a snake and they are adorable.
The cat tip. I'm gonna give a compliment. And this is big, guys. This is big.
Casbah Gaming cheered X300. Now I'm picturing Scar out in the desert shouting Kenobi to the sky in anger like Darth Maul. Also, offer is open if you ever want a tabletop RPG game run. I develop one professionally and I would love to see you play one. I think you'd be really good at it.
Kaz, could we make a tabletop game based on something like a storyline on Hermitcraft or something? How cool would that be?
$3. Some snakes can survive for months without food, and during this time, their metabolism slows dramatically. They can even digest parts of their own heart to stay alive, allowing them to wait patiently for the perfect moment to ambush prey.
They don't even need to eat?
Myri IG tipped $3. Hi Scar.
How do we kill
hope
them?
you're good. Love the new video. I'm starting my first work on Monday and I wanted to thank you for your content these past months. Been a great help for me.
We need to get the anti-snake people together, because I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but these snakes are gonna come after us. It's not gonna be good. We need to make notes. We need to make notes.
Are a really cool looking breed of chicken if you want to have a look.
I don't know. We need an anti-snake meeting immediately. I am concerned about our futures. Very concerned. Never heard that they're eating their own hearts. They're eating their own hearts at this point. And Finny and KB need to stop chewing on my feather. Unbelievable. My mind is literally blown. Okay, eating their own hearts, guys. Their own hearts. Okay. They're so determined to destroy us, they're eating themselves. Okay. Whew. All right, we're good. All right. Compliment time. Disneyland has had their Haunted Mansion closed for, well, not that it was closed, but the queue in the surrounding area got torn out and rebuilt. I'm going to give some compliments here and also some nots. The anti of compliment. But I think for the most part, they did a absolutely fantastic job.
Two tipped $3. Centipedes can be scarier than snakes. Some species, like the giant centipede, can grow over a foot long, are venomous, and can kill prey many times their size.
Yeah, but they
Their
got the cute
fast,
little feetsies.
unpredictable movements and ability to climb walls amplify their creep factor.
Yeah, but they got the cute little feetsies. So they're okay. We're pro centipede around here. So Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion. They did a good job. So the bottleneck with the Haunted Mansion has been that because the park has expanded in capacity, they've had to move the queue outside of the confines of the attraction's footprint. So there was an area next to it called Magnolia Park, original to New Orleans when it was built back in the 60s. And that area used to be just like a quiet area of the park. Just outside of Magnolia Park was the train station, so the New Orleans train station. And they, what they've done, and this is an unfortunate thing, like I don't like what they did, but they took out a good chunk of what was Magnolia Park and incorporated that into the Haunted Mansion queue. Now, I understand why they had to do it. There was a necessity of increasing the queue because the Haunted Mansion's queue spilled out into Magnolia Park, kind of mitigating the quiet, tranquil park area because everywhere needs like a quieter spot. I think they could have done the Magnolia Park, designed it better, but I think they did a fantastic job with the queue. Haunted Mansion's a very special attraction. It is such a classic attraction. So I think they paid the Haunted Mansion its due with the queue. So the queue is now spaced out into 3 different zones now. So when you enter the queue, you have an area that's themed after like the ship captain. It's kind of deep lore of the Haunted Mansion we don't need to go into. So that area kind of has like sea themed, like kind of spooky plants, garden art. And then there's a Madame Leota area, the seance person. And that's really cool. And then you come out of that area and you loop back around and there's like a greenhouse and there is now the ADA elevator. So that's the main point of this whole thing. Like why did Imagineering and Disney decide to completely renovate a queue after this many years? It is because, and I have some experience with this, being a man of wheels, that the Haunted Mansion has a ADA problem. So if you want to experience the attraction prior to this, if you were a person who has a disability, you would have 3 options. You would have there was a red card and there was 2 other colors I forgot. I was a red man. I'm a red card person. So I always got the red card. So what that meant was that they took all the people who needed special assistance off to the side. And basically, in some cases, you waited longer. People always thought, oh, look at those wheelchair people over there skipping the line. No, you can only bring down 3 wheelchairs at a time. And that changed based on like California regulation over years. Sometimes they would bring down more, sometimes they wouldn't. It was a whole thing. But typically, at least when I went, the rule was you can only have 3 wheelchairs in the mansion at a time. So you had to wait for those 3 people to go into the attraction, come back, and then you could go in, often waiting longer in that area than you would in the normal queue. So so basically what you would do is you would, in your wheelchair, you would go in as up the ramp, down the stretching room, wait down there for even longer, for another like good 10 minutes for the attraction to cycle enough to get the more accessible Doom buggies, transfer onto those. And then once you've concluded your ride, you come all the way back to the station where you boarded your Doom buggy. So you stay on the ride past the exit.
Fossils of Tetrapodiphis, an ancient snake-like creature, reveal it had 4 small legs. These
still not scarier than a snake.
For grasping or burrowing, offer a glimpse into snakes' evolution from lizards.
Yeah, I like those ones better.
Snake with cute feet.
I like those ones better. We're sticking with those ones are better than snakes. So you don't exit. If like you're familiar with the Haunted Mansion, how you exit in the tomb and you go up next to little Yoda. If you're a person of wheels, you go back to the station, and then you're escorted by a cast member back to the stretching room. You wait for all the people to get out of the stretching room, and then you are brought back into the stretching room. You go up the stretching room, the doors open, people flood in, so now you're trapped in your chair and it's all chaotic. So what they've done now is basically you go through the queue, you go down the stretching room, you do the same procedure for the attraction, but now instead of going back up the stretching room elevator, you go out of a different hallway, up a much smaller, just traditional elevator, obviously, and then you go out into a tomb, and then you're out of the attraction. You no longer have to fight the flow of people coming at you in a wheelchair going through the queue, which I think it's a plus. I think it's a plus. And honestly, I think the wheelchairs going through the queue is actually going to be shorter than it was before. I think a wheelchair person may actually have a shorter time in the queue than they did before, having to wait so long for these different procedures to work through. And I would assume, like, for a Haunted Mansion cast member, this has got to be great for them.
Tipped $3. I think you might have missed my last dono due to the scroll. College alpaca is called Sinbad, and there's a really funky looking chicken breed called Polish chickens. Worth a look.
Yeah, I want to look up those chickens. I love alpacas. They're so silly. They're so funny. There's some llamas that live near me that I like. Oh, never mind. They all died. I forgot. So sad. Anyway, so I think from a cast member's perspective, it must be so much more efficient now to just have wheelchairs go through the queue, down, they help them onto the attraction, and then send it back over the other elevator instead of all the different escorting and holding people back and moving people this way and the other way. I can imagine cast members are just like, whew, life's a lot easier. At least I hope it is. I hope it is for them. But I think they did a good job. I don't like what they did with Magnolia Park. I think they could have done better with that. They cut a lot of the planters away from the train station and like inserted like stroller parking.
When I was
it's
younger,
like
people made fun of me because I loved Disney and I'm a boy. One day a guy asked me, condescendingly, which Disney princess I liked most. I felt so embarrassed. Thanks for making me feel normal by liking Disney. BTW, do you like Bob Iger?
Aurora's pretty cool. Don't be embarrassed of things you enjoy. Most of the time, people who treat people like that are just insecure in their own things, or they just don't really have anything going on in their head. There's nothing worse than somebody who has like zero interest or passions. At least you have a passion and interest. I like Bob Iger. I have a very mixed feelings towards Bob Iger. Bob Iger, when he took over in, let's just say 2005 or so, fantastic. Did everything correct, in my opinion, in that era. So what he did was he repaired all the relationships that were destroyed. At that point, like Pixar was like done with Disney. Like they were on the outs with Disney. And he brought them back into the fold. He went and made like big special like overtures to go like talk to Steve Jobs. He went to Sonoma to like talk with Lasseter at the time. Like he went all out to like try to repair that Pixar relationship, because at that point Disney's animation was so in the toilet I mean, people often like complain about today.
Satan tipped $5
Nowhere near as
in
bad as it
Oregon.
was.
The ratio of snakes to humans is approximately 1 snake for every 1,000 people. With around
That's not good.
4.2 million residents and diverse snake species of 15 types, there are around 4,200 snakes. Sleep well.
I'm not sleeping well. Guaranteed. That's I don't like those odds. Never tell me the odds. So like in that era, right? So getting Pixar on board, repairing Disney animation, because like I said, I'll say this 1,000 times. If people think today's like movies, are kind of like, they were so much worse in the past. And if you looked at the parks in particular, like people complain, and I've complained a lot about some decisions made in the parks in the last few years. They're nowhere near the issues that Disney had in the late 90s. In the late 90s, Disney was complicit in their first, like, their fault death in the park. Like, the amount of neglect in the parks, you walk down Main Street, the buildings were, like, peeling paint, the, like, trash cans always overflow. Like, it was not great in the 90s. And he turned it around. Like, one of the things they did when he took over was putting somebody that eventually they fired, but putting Matt Lamette in the position that he was in during the 50th anniversary of Disneyland, who saved Disneyland. Matt Lamette saved Disneyland. Iger put him in that position. Eventually there was power struggles and how it always goes. But that guy saved Disney. The amount of things that Matt Lamette saved from like basically the dumpster, Disney fans should be appreciative of that person. The Lily Bell on the back of the Disneyland train, you love seeing that. It's pretty cool, right? That was basically dry rotted and ready to be scrapped if it wasn't for Matt Lamette seeing that and being like, what are we doing? That's a piece of legacy and history to the company. Letting this get neglected and destroyed like this is insane. He restored it. It's still on the train today. These are just one of the many things that Matt Lamette back then. So this was like a 2000, like, I would say he was there from like, let's just make up a number, from like 2003 to 2006, 7, somewhere around then. That's probably not super accurate, but close enough for our purposes. But back then it was terrible. And they brought back so much of the standard that was Disney to that era. But then you fast forward to around 2016 is when I feel like Iger started going downhill. That's when, the succession plan was started and he kept pushing that back. He kept, getting rid of people in the company that posed a threat to him and his power that would be future successors. Even though he was scheduled to retire, he kept pushing out the people that was supposed to replace him. And that caused such an issue that we ended up with Bobby Paycheck in the end. And like, never forget, like Bob Iger put Bob Chapek in that position. And as bad as Bob Chapek was, Iger put him in that position and backed him up 100%. And like, I have a hard time getting over that with Iger. And then for, I mean, there's just so many things that are hard because it's like you look at Iger and you say he did these things so wonderfully in that era that saved the company. And then I feel like there was a downfall. And I think that is the same with most humans in a position of extreme power like that, is that they get in with good intentions, they start making progress, and then there is a sense of like ego and or self-preservation and a lack of accountability of things you may have done wrong, so you double down on them, not in saying that they were correct, and you just keep doubling down on them until it absolutely blows up in your face. And I think Iger should have left in his original succession plan was like 2014, somewhere around there, around the time Shanghai Disneyland opened. He should have bowed out and he should have put Tom Staggs as the CEO of the company, and we would be in a different world right now if that had happened. Tom Staggs was a money guy. He was the CFO. Who's the money guy in the companies? Isn't that him? So he was a money guy. But what he did fantastically when he was moved from the money position to the parks chairman to get more experience under the belt, CFO, he let creatives be creatives and he let people explain to him how things operate. And then he was able to put his own like thoughts in, like how things should go. He was fantastic. Originally, people saw him as like, oh, great. A money guy's now going to be in charge of the parks. Turned out to be fantastic, but sadly he was scapegoated over the cost overruns in Shanghai, so Iger could point to him as, hey, we got rid of somebody who didn't manage Shanghai well, even though Shanghai was never going to be managed well, and just its nature of how crazy that whole project was. And he was scapegoated, so Iger looked better for Wall Street in that era. So a good potential CEO got thrown out, so Iger could say, hey, don't worry, Wall Street. Yeah, I know we have all these cost overruns. It's okay, we got rid of him. And then they install Bob Paycheck in that position. Then Bob Paycheck eventually becomes CEO, runs the company further into the ground. I don't know. It's tough because, like I said, I'll say it again. Iger did fantastic things when he first became CEO. But over that course of time, I think that ego and that sense of like, I can do no wrong just became too much. And it's quite disturbing. It's like disturbing to see on that level because he is literally creating a lot of the issues that his predecessor created.
Vent tipped $3.
It's not as bad.
Sorry,
it really
is
isn't.
So irrelevant. But watching you has helped me come to terms with things regarding my own disabilities. It's comforting to see somebody be so open and unashamed, and really made an impact on me for the better. Thank you, less than 3.
Oh, good. Thank you for that. That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for that nice message. Being disabled's difficult, but one thing it's you shouldn't add to that plate is being ashamed. It is what it is. You are who you are, and if somebody has a problem with it, well, they can go be thrown in a pit of snakes. So yeah, I don't know. It's so hard. We really went on a rant on Bob Iger, but yeah, it's a wild ride. Bob Iger is a wild ride. I've met Bob Iger once and then been in a room near him another time. I don't know where it is, but I have this autograph somewhere over here. It used to be there. I'm not sure. I think I put it somewhere. See, Iger, one of the big things that Iger did that was really successful is he saw the failings of California Adventure at Disneyland, and he organized like a board meeting and got the board behind it, and they went into California Adventure and then did version 2. And then, completely transformed that park from what it was. And there's an Imagineer named Bob Wise, and he had a blog, and he had a passage on his blog when Steve Jobs died, because Steve Jobs at the time was on the board of directors. And he said, he said a few things on how Steve Jobs, interacted with them on the board of the directors. And one of the things Steve Jobs said when they approved California Adventure's remodeling was that Steve Jobs came to him and said, this isn't far enough. Like, this is just this proposal, and the budget given is only scratching the surface on what needs to be done at this park to make it successful. And Steve Jobs was 100% correct, because in that era, they cut the budget pretty hard about halfway through. So the budget only allowed for Buena Vista Street, Mermaid, and the kind of half redoing of Paradise Pier. So they're only able to do like bits and parts. And then Cars Land, that was it. Like, they didn't have any more budget. That was it, right? And he was mad, apparently, that they didn't give him more budget to actually properly redo Paradise Pier, to properly redo the Hollywood backlot area that got stripped from the budget. And he wrote that in his blog because I used to follow his blog. One day later, he deleted that, never to be seen again. Somebody at Disney was like, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about that. I wish I saved the article. He literally wrote a blog spot about it in his blog. Oh, it was funny. I just think it's so funny that he deleted that from there. But Steve Jobs was right. Like, he was right. Like, Disney at that time, it was good that they did what they did. It needed to be done, but they didn't go far enough, and they needed to finish that. They needed to complete Paradise Pier, because you add the Midway and Midway was not part of the budget that was the renovation of California Adventure. It came from a separate budget before that budget was approved. But they built that area up and made it this Victorian pier, and they were going in the right direction. And then Bobby Paycheck comes in and says, it's time to synergize. Everybody, it's time to synergize. Find an IP, shove it in their faces. Everything's gotta be IP. Everything's gotta be IP. Shove it in their faces. Shove it in their faces. Take their money. And then he comes in there and they basically have just like destroyed Paradise Pier, and like there's like old California Adventure Paradise Pier elements still there. There's some Victorian Pier elements from the 2007 renovation, and then there's the 2018 Pixar Pier overlay, and it is a mess thematically. Like, people enjoy the rides, right? They enjoy the Incredicoaster, they enjoy Midway Mania, but from a thematic standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, from an architectural standpoint, from a storytelling perspective, an absolute dumpster fire. But yeah, it's yeah, we got on a real rant today, haven't we all? Any other things you want to know that I could pull out of the old? Steve Jobs saved Pixar. Steve Jobs, if I remember correctly, let's go back in time. Steve Jobs bought Pixar from Lucasfilm for like $1 million or something. And the idea was that he was going to use the quote unquote Pixar computer that rendered things. And he was going to sell that to architectural firms, hospitals, things along those lines. So back then, say, Pixar always had the dream of making a feature-length animated movie with 3D animation technology. They had no money. Steve Jobs buys it and says, hey, this is cool technology. You, Lasseter, and all these guys, you go over there and you come up with what you want, play around, have fun, but you can only do it at night because I got to take this computer and go sell it to places to actually make money. And then he joins the board of, or rejoins Apple again. And then Pixar starts, not selling computers and actually making films. So that's kind of like a very abridged, poorly told Pixar history. And then eventually, Iger repairs the relationship that Michael Eisner nearly destroyed, and then they go, and then Disney buys Pixar after that. What do I think about the Disney era of Star Wars? I mean, it's a mixed bag, honestly. I know there's people that there's people that'll be like, I love everything. Everything is wonderful. And then there's people like, I hate everything. Everything is blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just don't think any of those people are quite honest. Like, there's good, there's bad. There's good, there's bad. Why do you look so silly? There's good and there's bad for sure. I think the trilogy was flawed. I think things they've done on Disney Plus is a mixed bag. There's good and there's bad. There's good and they're bad. I think what they're suffering from is really, really, really bad leadership, and that can be told by how projects keep coming and going. They can't make up their mind. There is what's the word I'm looking for? Indecisive as I am with my next Hermitcraft episode. Like, how many times are they going to announce a movie and then pull the plug on it? Announce a movie, pull the plug on it. Where's my stone? It's crazy. I think they lack proper leadership at Lucasfilm, and until they have a proper and focused leadership, they'll just keep making half-baked things. It's just the way it is. So we just kind of hope for the best. They lack vision. They lack the ability just to do anything. I mean, how many movies and series do they announce and then pull the plug on? Announce and pull the plug on. Like, don't announce anything until you have cameras rolling at this point. Like, just don't. It just looks bad. Like, I think I named off once how many shows, how many movies have been canceled that have been announced and hyped on stages. And it's like, you don't see that with Marvel. I mean, they've had a few times where they've had to like cancel something or change something, but compared to Star Wars, it's insane. It's just a bad look, honestly. It's a really bad look. It shows really bad leadership. They need to have decisive decisions. They need to have a coherent vision, and they just seem to be grasping at things. Like, a director will come to them and be like, hey, I've always wanted to make Ocean's 7 in Star Wars, or I want to make Goonies in Star Wars. How about you just make a freaking Star Wars movie? You don't have to retell some other thing in Star Wars. Like, there's fundamental things that Star Wars succeeds on, and they just seem to forget those things. But whatever. I like The Mandalorian. I think I like The Mandalorian a lot. And you know what? This maybe get some pushback. I've had a little bit more appreciation lately for the Boba Fett show. I know some people aren't going to be happy, but I've had a little bit more appreciation for the Boba Fett show. I still think that Boba's character was a little like in the speeder bikes. Like, what were we thinking here, guys? Like, why is this man of Boba Fett's reputation walking around in a robe soaking wet? Like, it just I'm not even gonna think about it, or the bikes. But I do think in retrospect to some of the stuff lately, it's like it wasn't that bad. Well, maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought. Why is there so many mops here? But yeah, any other deep dives in Disney history you want? Ask me. Sadly, I probably would know. Q&A, obscure Disney history. Go. Muppets. Oh, the Muppets, guys, the Muppets. Oh my God, the Muppets. I like the Muppets. I'm not like a super die-hard Muppet fan, but I like the Muppets. So I feel really bad for the super die-hard Muppet people out there that Muppet Vision 3D is being closed at Hollywood Studios. It's really sad, honestly, because, you know, D23, there's a lot of positivity about D23 and the things that they were being added to the parks. And it turned out that Slick JD, good old JD, true used car salesman, he is, basically, you know, brought out a lot of like hype at D23 and then slowly drip feeds all the bad news afterwards, being like, hey, we're getting rid of the Rivers of America. Hey, we're getting rid of Muppets 3D. Oh, I wonder why you obfuscated that at the presentation. Oh, because people would have been livid. So yeah, it's yeah, Muppets is sad. I do feel bad, but on a positive note, so if I looked at this, how I would do this, let's look at it how I would have done this. So you're taking Muppets out and you're going to replace it with Monstropolis, which looks kind of cool, to be honest. It looks pretty cool. And you're going to take the Rock and Roll Roller Coaster out of its current theme and you're going to re-theme it to Muppets. Okay, sweet. You're taking a family property and putting it on what I think is Disney's wildest roller coaster in the... I don't think there's anything more crazy than Rock and Roll Roller Coaster in Disney's like arsenal of roller coasters. Disneyland Paris's Space Mountain is pretty wild, but I don't think it compares to Rock and Roll Roller Coaster. Yeah, I would say Rock and Roll Roller Coaster is Disney's most intense roller coaster. You're taking a family thing and then you're now putting Muppets on it. So you're kind of like alienating a decent amount of people who would have enjoyed that. So what I would do if I was them is that right next door is Lightning McQueenie show, whatever it is. Straight up just pick Muppets up, spend some money for God's sakes. This is Jim Henson's last production, and move Muppets Vision over to Lightning McQueen and completely re-theme the area that is Rock and Roller Coaster today and will be eventually the Muppets ride, and make that into a Muppets land, like a real Muppets land, like a proper Muppets land, proper Muppet buildings, proper Muppet shops. I want to make a Muppet. I want to eat at a Muppet shop. I think it would be incredible. And it would be such a bone to the Disney community that you care and not only care about literally milking the wallet every chance you get. And is it going to cost you that much money? No, it's a theater with some animatronics that are already there. Just put it there. It's such a goodwill gesture to the community that makes you like stop taking advantage of the community for 5 seconds and just do that. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal. You make boatloads of money, and I get that you've had so many failed movies over the last couple of years where you've lost hundreds of millions of dollars, but the parks are what keeps you from going bankrupt. So give the people at the parks a bone that have kept your fledgling studio alive for all of these years lately, and just put Muppets Vision in the Lightning McQueen building and theme that area to a Muppets land and have a shop where you can build your own marionette Muppet. Boom, $1 billion idea. I have not seen Wild Robot. I've heard many good things. The Swedish Chef's Restaurant. See, like people would love that. It would be a huge hit. But in the end, what are they going to do, guys? They're going to look at their pocketbook and they're going to go, let's put Muppet Vision 3D on Disney Plus. And let's be honest, the Muppets film isn't all that great. It's about the experience. It's about the experience of being in a big theater that's interacting around you. You got those old men up in the corner there shouting and hollering. You got the mouse there launching rockets. It's an experience. It's a whole experience. And by just putting the film on Disney Plus, like they'll probably do, it's such a slap. Like, it is such a slap. But at the end of the day, Disney's got their arsenal of vloggers and influencers that are just ready, just willing and ready to go out there and defend them at any cost to stay on that media list so they could get those $15 cupcakes for free. Those people will do anything. And may I say, never disclose their sponsorships or the free things they get. All those Disney vloggers that are getting all that free stuff, you're in violation of the FCC, or is it it's one of those. You're in violation of those things. You're not checking those boxes on YouTube about disclosure. Yeah, someday the roosters are gonna come home to roost over that. So all those people getting that free stuff out there, they ain't disclosing that. Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, Disney flew us out." No disclosure. You got to check those boxes. They don't. There's so much about that stuff. All the influencers that went to the Galactic Star Cruiser never mentioned that they got paid. Never mentioned they got paid. So when you're out there and you're watching these people, like, you gotta be a little careful about the shady media list. It's shady as can be. That's why I love Fresh Baked. Fresh Baked at Disneyland does a fantastic job. He says he super positive, great guy, and also like still not on the media list because he dares to like criticize every once in a while. You know what? Like that's a person of integrity. I think he does a great job with his show and doesn't bow down to Disney, so he gets a $15 free cupcake. And I think he has a better channel, a better show, and a better spot than any of the people who bow down for those $15 cupcakes for free.
3000 tipped $3. What are your thoughts on trackless ride systems that seem to be implemented in all newer rides?
Oh man, in the early 2000s, I wanted nothing more than a trackless ride. The only trackless ride in the Disney arsenal of ride systems was in Tokyo, and it was their Winnie the Pooh. Their Winnie the Pooh was incredible. And then they built the one in Disney World and Disneyland that are it basically like a quarter of the budget. Watch the video, guys. After stream or whatever, watch the Tokyo Disneyland's Winnie the Pooh. It's maybe not as impressive these days when you compare some of maybe some newer attractions out there, but it is. Oh man, in its time, it was like mind-boggling. This is a sad fact: is I've never been on a trackless ride. So it's hard for me to say, but I do know from what people have said a lot of times is that there are some downsides to trackless. One, it's reliability. Two, it creates these like large cavernous spaces. So you're so far from the sets that you're supposed to be a part of. It's why even though Fantasyland dark rides are basically plywood painted sets, they feel almost more immersive because they're so much closer to you. And obviously there's some modern building codes that make that have to be a reality, but I'd say those are probably the two downsides of trackless, but I've never been on one. I haven't been on Rise of the Resistance. I haven't been on the Ratatouille. I haven't been on Mickey's Runaway Railroad. So I haven't got to experience any of those, unfortunately. I want to. I've always wanted to. Let's see, when I was a cast member, especially on the holiday parties, the vloggers were so obviously getting paid because they didn't even buy the exclusive merch. They would just come in the Emporium, film footage. Oh, I got you. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's actually really great, vloggers that don't do that, but the vast majority do.
I was wondering what you think of Andor. I don't know if you've talked about it before, but it's my favorite Star Wars show, D.
Oh, I liked Andor. I feel like it got a little repetitive or just a little long in the tooth in a few areas that I feel like they maybe could have like cut down a little bit. And I feel like it could have used maybe just like a little spark more of like, I don't know, that little spark of what Star Wars is. But overall, I liked it. Very high quality. Tony Gilroy is a fantastic filmmaker. And I think the next season is going to be absolutely incredible. I think it's going to be really good. We're gonna get the robot guy. We're getting a Krennic. Oh, I'm excited. And it's like, you don't besmirch the people for like getting on the media list. You besmirch them for not disclosing it. Like, I don't know how they've gotten away with that. Okay, I need to add some more details to the bank here. It's a little bit plain and boring across here. So I'm gonna go grab some Blackstone.
$3. I'm excited and a little nervous for my Tokyo DisneySea trip around Christmas.
Ooh.
I don't know what to expect or what I should do in preparation. What should I check out?
Wow, man. Well, first of all, you're gonna have a boatload of fun. Very, very jealous. The biggest thing I would say is set your expectations for crowds. I think that's one of the big things is a lot of times, like, yeah, you're going to encounter a lot of crowds, but having the expectation that you're going to be dealing with big crowds, knowing going in is good. Like, you kind of know, like, okay, it's going to be crowded, instead of like going like thinking it's going to be light. Because I know when I've gone to parks and it's gotten like, I thought it was going to be really like calm and it was going to be chill, and it wasn't at all. It was kind of like disheartening. And there are times I thought, it's going to be really crowded, and it wasn't. So just kind of, I think it would set your expectations. It'll probably be pretty crowded. The things that I would try to see, and I don't know what their refurbishment schedules are, so I don't know what's operating, what's not. But Journey to the Center of the Earth is an incredible attraction, just an achievement of themed entertainment. The Imagineers did such a fantastic job on that. So I would try to make that be a priority. I'm going to say for Fantasy Springs, don't plan on going there, and if you end up there, just be like, yo, let's go, we got in.
Hi Scar, it's the Scarrett person again. Unfortunately, I'm no longer able to interact with him due to server provider mishaps. My friends and I are joking that he is all yours forever now, so what should I do to please him?
Let's see. What am I missing? I'm missing something. It's this Route person again. What am I missing? Wait, hold on. Wait, what? Was this a message before? Why is my brain not, why am I forgetting? Hold on. Give me context. I'm in the middle of a rant. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something and my brain's just not firing. But for Tokyo DisneySeas, with the new expansion area, I just as I said before, like, set your expectations ahead of time. And I would say, know that you might not be able to get it in there, or it might be really crowded for the new Fantasy Springs area. So if you get in there, that's like a bonus, I would say. The time I got super disappointed with crowds was like...
Edge 13 tipped $3. Scar, if you ever come to the UK, I recommend Blackpool Pleasure Beach. They have a Wallace and Gromit themed ride.
I love Wallace and Gromit.
Alton Towers, which is a theme park built on around a 17th century castle. The atmosphere is great and the rides are great, especially 13.
Oh yeah, Alton Towers looks like a great place, especially like the cool gardens and the castle and stuff. I did not know about this Wallace and Gromit attraction. I love Wallace and Gromit, so that's cool. Let's see, what else about Tokyo Disney that I've always wanted to see? I've always wanted to walk around the Maracosta, the hotel there. It just looks so cool. So that's kind of like the entrance to Tokyo DisneySea's, and it's like their big fancy hotel. I always just wanted to walk around there. It's kind of a Venetian design. It just looks really fun. So yeah, Journey to the Center of the Earth. Always wanted to walk around that hotel because it looks really cool. Their Indiana Jones is fancy. There's Soarin'. It's just a fancier version of Soarin' than we have in the domestic parks. There's an attraction that's, the Tower of Terror. That's right. Their Tower of Terror. I was like, what is it? Their Tower of Terror, High Tower Hotel is so incredible. Oh, the videos and everything about that are so cool. So I would make a priority to try to get on that or Center of the Earth. Both those attractions are incredible. I was like, what is it? What is it? And I would try to eat at the ship, like the old like steam ship. That looked really fun. I always wanted to eat there. So those are some ideas. Soarin' is lame. I'm not sorry. It's like a little bit fancier version of the one in the States. I wish California Adventure would just go back to the California film.
Melody to Rebel tipped $3. Hey Scar, back in the Ore Mountain stream I asked for a tattoo idea around season 8 and you suggested to get the boat and pole. Finally, after a couple of months I got it done. I'm super in love with it. Thank you for the eye.
That's cool. That's cool. That's amazing. Oh my god. I mean, I see Regulus like, I got a guide you can use. My ideas are optimistic ideas, Rig. My ideas are optimistic. You have a much more realistic eye on what you can or can't do. I just have like an optimistic look at it. I've always wanted to go to Tokyo Disney. Tokyo Disney is just on this next level there. Like they're like, hey, our Space Mountain is the same old Space Mountain. It's been Space Mountain for a long, long time. Why don't we just tear down Space Mountain and build up a new, bigger, fancier version? That's what they do at Tokyo Disney. That's kind of like the level that they get wild at. Like, can you imagine the leadership at Disney World being like, you know what? Why don't we tear down this Space Mountain and build like an even bigger, better one? It would never happen. They'd be like, our ROI states that there is an infinite amount of data showing that we believe that if we continue to milk this for all it's worth for the next 100 years, like, no, Tokyo Disney's like, we're tearing it down, we're building it bigger and better, we're doing it live. Tokyo Disneyland's wild. Their leadership is wild. Wild people over there.